I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 360 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we're talking about how to have it all by breaking just one little rule. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. And before I get too far, I want to really thank you for the extraordinary response to last week's episode. If you missed it, you're going to want to go back and check out episode 359, in which I made a bold announcement, no pun intended, which was to introduce you to the idea that there is a brand new membership called Bold that I have introduced to you, the listeners of Brilliant Balance and the Brilliant Balance community at large. We've been at this for a while together. So there are so many of you who are loyal listeners who have been around kind of watching the evolution of Brilliant Balance. And it is very, very exciting to share finally this thing with you that we have been quietly building with a small community of women behind the scenes, and to really sort of reveal it to all of you as listeners and members of this community it was an exciting day and one that had a lot of energy behind it. And so that episode went live a week ago. And I'm just so grateful for the messages that I got and the response that it received. In that episode, if you listened, you heard that I invited you to come learn more, all the details about what is really included in the membership so that you could make a decision about whether or not you want to apply. And I was sharing that this is a selective membership, right? There are tons of memberships out there that you can just sign up for. This one actually is selective. It's application-based because of some of the really specific nuances around how we're building it and who we're building it for. So in last week's episode, I was talking about women who can't really get to the big things that they want to do because they're so busy doing all the little things, right? They're sort of really, we're overloaded and fighting this like nagging sense of failure that maybe you can't quite seem to put your finger on, but you know that there is more. There is something big that you are supposed to be able to do, you want to do, you feel it in you, and you just can't figure out how to get there, how to make it happen. That is really who we are building the Bold membership for. And so whether you heard the episode or not, if that sounds like you and you are curious about what we are putting together, I have a really exciting kind of last minute opportunity for you to come and hear about it. So just go over to brilliant-balance.com/bold, and you will find the information there about how you can join me for the launch party, which is happening ASAP here as this episode is dropping. So I really want to make sure that you have a chance to do that. You're going to have to jump on it quickly. And then if for some reason you missed the launch party, we will make sure that that same site reflects how to get the rest of the details about Bold whenever you happen to discover this episode. Okay. So it is an exciting season around here as we bring this into your hands and invite people to join us in Bold. And I am really delighted by what I think we have in store this fall and in the year ahead for the women who come along for that ride. So make sure you get over there to brilliant-balance.com/bold and get all the details. Okay. So today, what I want to talk about is I want to come back to this idea of having it all. And I fully realize that that is a loaded phrase, right? That there are some of you who maybe are listening and hearing, yeah, I do want to have it all. And broadly, I think the, current kind of collective of women is saying, I don't even know if that's possible. I don't even really know if it's possible to have it all. But back in the day, when we were being told that we could, in fact, have it all, right? We were going to be women who had it all. We were given a lot of advice, and that advice really led us on, I think, a pretty predictable path. And we picked up a whole bunch of roles right? A whole bunch of jobs or responsibilities or roles that we played along this path, really over our lifetime. And it started off not too difficult, right? The playbook, if you will, for how to go have it all as an adult woman started off with getting a good education. So check, done, easy, right? A lot of us went and said, yep, I can figure out how to do that. And then establish a career. Yep, obvious next step, right? Check, done. And then we had to buy some things, right? Like buy a car and eventually a house and find someone to spend our life with. No small task, right? For some of us. And then maybe have kids and raise them, not just have them, figure out how to have them, and then figure out what we were going to do with them when we had them. And get ourselves involved in our communities, right? As volunteers or active members of a variety of communities, like whether it's our church or the schools that our children attended or other clubs and nonprofits that were within the community. And this was modeled for us, right? We were watching women who were older than us do this. I certainly remember watching my mom follow a lot of that same path, right? The education, the career, the car, the house, the partner, the kids, the community involvement, being a really strong push to volunteer and give back. And then as life went on, right? And we climbed the ladder, which was part of it, getting promoted and moving ahead in our career. That gave us the chance to upgrade everything. So part of the vision of having it all, I think, included better versions than the starter version of all the things, the car, the house, the wardrobe. And climbing that ladder would earn accolades, professional accolades, maybe some awards for our service work that we were doing. And we all want to be, Mom of the Year. And then while we're doing that, to make sure that we're making time for memorable experiences, right? The birthday parties, the anniversaries, the travel vacations, right? The things that we were doing to mark milestones while being fully present for all of them and finding our purpose and making a difference. I think the list starts to, at some point around here, feel a little less realistic, right? Somewhere between a little and a lot less realistic. And I think that is really the rub. This whole list of things that we said that we were going to go off and do, not only were we going to do them, or in some cases have them, but each one of them came with its own, rule book, right? Each one of these roles, each one of these experiences didn't just come with go do it. There was a bit of a specific directive on how to do it. And maybe that varied a bit based on who was giving us our direction. But it felt like there were ways to do this well. For example, go get an education, right? So I went to Cornell. And when I was a student, I thought there were a few things that were very important to being a student there. Academically, I was I am taking no fewer than 18 credits a semester. It wasn't required, it just kind of felt like a rule, right? I'm going to rush a sorority. I am going to have season hockey tickets. If you went to Cornell, right? Those are a couple of things. Just there's no rule book saying you have to do these. It felt like it. I sort of discerned the rules out of the ether. When I went to Procter & Gamble and I was a new hire, I picked up some of the rules just by observing other people's behavior, right? Looking at what got people rewarded, be 10 minutes early to every meeting. I was in sales, and that was absolutely the culture of sales, was if you were not 10 minutes early, you were late. Things like do not put a location restriction on your annual performance review. We had an opportunity every year to share some things about what we wanted to do next with our career, what we wanted to learn. And I remember very specifically getting very clear that I should not put a location restriction saying that I wouldn't move or I wouldn't be offered the best assignments, right? When I was a new mother, skip ahead, right? When I was a new mother, I remember the rules about, how you're supposed to parent this child. Oh my gosh, don't pick them up when they cry in the middle of the night, or you'll never get them to sleep through the night. Let them cry it out. Postscript. I never, ever, ever did that, and everyone survived. I just didn't, I could not bear it. Breastfeeding. Like the all of the narrative around what is the right way to feed a child. And we all know the wars that went on to start, right, among women about what is the best way to nourish this child, whether or not that is practical or possible for you. Thou shalt scrapbook, right? I think so. I am a bit of an older mom here. My oldest is almost 20, and scrapbooking was very much a thing. We weren't even in digital photography too much. We got our first digital camera when she was a baby. So building scrapbooks and having baby books for your children felt like a rule. And I am not very arts and craftsy, so it was a tough one to follow. Eventually, when I started my first business, there were like these unwritten rules of being an entrepreneur. You can go out into the entrepreneur ecosystem and really get pushed to the hustle and grind culture. Like if you're not working 24/7 and sleeping under your desk in that era, you were not committed. And certainly go get funding. Be talking to angel investors and private equity firms or venture capitalists, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur who gets anywhere, you're going to have outside funding. So all of those like unwritten rules, none of those were written down anywhere. There wasn't anybody actually giving me that advice in a true handbook, right? It didn't exist, but it was not hard to discern that those were the expectations. That is how everybody did it. That's how the most successful people did it. And therefore, if I wanted to be successful or perceived well, then that's how I felt like I had to do it. And the reality is that in all of these rule books or handbooks that were kind of imaginary, but I felt like they existed, it was as though there were one extra rule. It was kind of snuck in sneakily to each of these books. Every single role that I've ever had in my life felt like it had this one, which was do everything yourself, right? At the very least, show them that you're willing to. Do everything yourself. Get it all done, right? Put in the hours, put in the time, roll up your sleeves, be the person who people can count on to get all the things done. And for heaven's sake, don't ask for help, right? Don't ask for help and never, ever, ever say, I don't think I can do all of this. And that is the rule that to me, as I look back on it and I look at my own life, my own example of my life, and also the lives of the women that I've coached, and even back to my corporate career, the 15 years that I spent at P&G managing people, mentoring people, watching, observing colleagues. I think this is the rule that really becomes a limiter. It gets in our way of the ability to have that big, full life that we really want. And, even if you can have the big, full life, what you don't have is the freedom to enjoy it. If you are so busy doing every single thing yourself, where is the freedom to enjoy it? And so I think that it feels like we can't let go of any of the tasks or there will be repercussions, right? Let's look at some of those repercussions that we might perceive as existing if we were to let go of any of the work associated with these various roles. Hey, are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to the next level? I want to introduce you to the Prosperity Playbook. This is your ultimate guide to building a more profitable and sustainable business. The Prosperity Playbook has been designed for business owners like you who are ready to transform their financial future. With step-by-step guidance, practical tools, and expert advice, you'll gain the confidence and control that you need to master your business finances. Just imagine having a clear roadmap to achieve your financial goals with insights that help you make smarter decisions and grow your business with ease. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, the Prosperity Playbook has got you covered. And here's the best part. As a Brilliant Balance listener, you can get lifetime access to the playbook for just $199. Unlock the secrets to financial success and join a whole community of empowered entrepreneurs. So don't wait. Visit theprosperityplaybook.com/brilliant balance. It's linked in the show notes, and start your journey to prosperity today. Remember, your business deserves to thrive. And with the Prosperity Playbook, it will. The first one, I just feel like for me, it felt like I would be cheating. Like somehow it is cheating to not do everything yourself. If there is anyone else participating in getting the work done, and maybe that goes all the way back to being like the straight A student throughout my life, that I really wanted to know for sure that I had the ability to do this on my own. I didn't want to have to look things up. I didn't want to need extra support. And somehow that gets a little twisty when it moves into our adult life, because surely it is not cheating to ask for help or to accept help or to delegate or to outsource, right? Clearly that's not cheating, but somehow it kind of pokes a nerve and makes us feel maybe like we are. The second thing that I think we fear it could mean is that we're incapable. Like, I can't not do everything myself, or someone, the imaginary someone is going to think that I'm not capable of doing this, that I don't have what it takes. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not organized enough to be able to get it all done on my own. And that's uncomfortable to the point that we will just not do it, right? We won't let go of anything. And I think the third one, and I hear this one all the time, is we will inconvenience someone, right? If we don't do every task ourselves that's associated with all of these jobs, we will be inconveniencing someone else. And I hear this one so much, particularly as it relates at home, that if you listen to the phrases, the sort of language that people use when they talk about work to be done to keep a household running, just ask yourself if you've ever said this. Have you ever said like, well, my husband helps with that, or sometimes my kids help with that, right? The notion of your partner helping with something has an implicit assumption underneath it that the work is yours, it's your responsibility, and you are then getting help or asking for help or being given help. And I think that alone is the problem, right? That is part of the problem, because actually what we have is a collection of tasks that need to be done to keep a household running smoothly, and they don't actually belong to any one person. So what we're doing is we're dividing that work, we're sharing that work, we're organizing and orchestrating that work. And so yes, someone else may have a little less free time in order for you to have a little bit more, but is that really inconveniencing them? And I think that whole narrative that we are inconveniencing someone, like I can't ask my kids to do that. They have homework, right? I can't ask my partner to do that. He has XYZ. Really is one that I see just hugely getting in the way of our ability to let go of some of the tasks associated with these roles. And I think another one, I don't know if it's the last one, but the fourth one is that if we don't do everything ourselves, we're worried that people will think that like we think we're too good for it. We think we're above it, right? Well, who does she think she is that she doesn't have to do this and she can give it to us? And this shows up in places to me, like if you think about the workplace where the leader is still doing things like ordering lunch for the team meeting, right? It's kind of a classic example. Or we've talked a lot about how women are taking notes in meetings where that could go to anybody. And it's not necessarily rotating. It's just like sometimes it's even the leader who's trying to lead the meeting and take the notes, right? And send them out afterward. So that the sort of willingness to like vertically integrate your way into the minutia of the work because you don't want anyone to think that you're too good for it has its roots in servant leadership. And look, there is a place for being of service to your team. Of course there is. But the notion that we then have to do everything ourselves all the time and we can't spread that work around or let go of any of it because somehow someone will then think that we're above it. We think we're above it. I really think this gets in our way. So I'm going to recap those four that the reason we kind of adopt this do everything yourself rule and we can't break it is because we think that we're going to be seen as like cheating. People are going to think that we're incapable. We will be inconveniencing someone else, or people will think that we think we're too good for it, right? That we're above it. And that's going to kind of create backlash where we just won't be liked very much. However, not letting go of this big giant task list, right? All of this little stuff that we are doing creates a lot of problems. And I want to talk about a couple of those problems because I think this is where we start to source the motivation to let go, to try, right? To run some experiments, to test the idea of not doing every single thing ourselves. Here are some of the problems. The first problem that I see is this behavior creates an upper limit problem. I re-aired my interview with Gay Hendricks a few weeks ago. He wrote The Big Leap and talked about the upper limit problem. This upper limit is governed by your personal capacity. When you do not hand off tasks to someone else who is capable of doing them and you keep them for yourself, you reach an upper limit that is created by your personal capacity. In other words, you have no more time. And because you have no more time, you cannot get more done. So it's a limit, right? It's a ceiling, self-imposed, driven by an unwillingness to let go of some of the tasks. Yuck, right? My gosh, we have enough ceilings we're dealing with. We don't need to create our own. Second one that I see is that when we don't hand things off, it reinforces the false belief that we have to do everything ourselves. It's like the rule gets bolded and underlined. The more we repeat it, the more it reinforces itself. We go, see, look what happened. I did it and then it got handled. And if I wouldn't have done it, it wouldn't have gotten handled. And the rule gets underlined again. Whereas if we would give ourselves a chance to not do it and just see what happens if someone else takes a turn, right? Then we could break this false belief. We would have some kind of data to the contrary. But every time we go and get the same data, like, see, look what happened. It would have fallen apart. We're just reinforcing, we're underlining again that rule that we have to do everything ourselves. The third thing that happens, and this one it's sad and it's true, is we rob other people of the chance to shine, the chance to learn. I was thinking about this. The first time I ever really grasped this idea was when I did StrengthsFinders, Clifton StrengthsFinders, the assessment a million years ago. And I learned how to be a facilitator for StrengthsFinders at that time. And I was taking groups through their StrengthsFinders assessments. And it was just mind-blowing to people going through the training to realize that things that they were very good at, other people were not, and vice versa. Right? So we all have tasks that we're like, I don't really love doing this, right? I'm either not great at it or I just don't like it. And paradoxically, those are often the ones that we hold on to very tightly. And at first glance, like that makes no sense. But here's where it starts to make sense. When we're altruistic, right? When we are kind people who are trying to look out for the best interests of others, we think they're wired just like us. So we're like, if I don't like doing this, they also do not like doing this. I don't want to give this to them, right? It kind of goes back to the inconveniencing part. But in truth, there is someone out there where getting that task on their plate is like their dream. They love doing it. And we are literally like, we're hogging the space. We are taking away their opportunity to get to have that experience. That was so fascinating to first of all, for myself to have that insight. And then to watch other people have that insight in the training was like, oh my gosh, you mean that if I just sign up, for example, for the volunteer work that I actually like, then I could let other people sign up for the volunteer work that they actually like, and everybody's winning. Yes, in fact, that is true. So I think this one is so insidious because we really think we're doing a good thing. We think we're being of service to others. And sometimes we really are taking up a space that someone would love to step into. I also think it plays out, my sister-in-law took a sabbatical last year, and we were talking about this after her sabbatical, that there were things she had held on to before the sabbatical that taking it forced her to let go of. And it was like, wow, this entire next level of her team had the opportunity to step up and get to do those things. And for them, it was like, this is cool. This is a place to like build a new skill, stretch some muscles, like do some things that we haven't had the chance to do before. So, sometimes we're taking up space thinking we're being of service, and we're actually not. And the fourth thing that I think happens when we try to do every single thing ourselves is we set a bad example for the people who are watching. And this further perpetuates the problem because now we are demonstrating an unwritten rule. And guess who's watching? The people more junior to us in our organizations, right? Whether that's our companies or whether that's the organizations that we're volunteering within, our families, especially our children, right? But like cousins and nieces and nephews, people who are watching us to kind of read, to intuit the rules that they are going to follow. When we continue to perpetuate this cycle of doing everything ourselves, kind of, white knuckling our way through it, we are really setting a bad example for them. And we are further perpetuating the problem that honestly, I wish someone had broken for us. But it's our turn, right? We are going to have to be the generation of women who figure out that this is the rule we have to break. If we are going to have a shot at having these big, full lives, it doesn't have to be every single thing in the kind of classical definition of having it all, but to have the collection of things that we really want and the freedom to enjoy it. If we want that both and, we are going to have to break this rule. And the good news is it never really existed in the first place, right? We just believe that it's true because we watched so many people before us doing it. So if we can learn that we want the results, we want the benefits of having a lot of these things, and we're going to have to figure out how to create the results without staying up all night, right? Without working every weekend, without never having any downtime, because that is what gives us the freedom to actually enjoy these lives that we've built. So I want you to think about that in your own life. I want you to think about, where are you still trying to do it all yourself? And where could you start to test the waters on letting go of some things? And if this is a problem that you are facing, I definitely want you to come check out what we are building over in Bold. Remember, that's brilliant-balance.com/bold. You can go get all the information about what we're doing there, because I really want to support you. This is the biggest service that I can provide to you, is to put you in a community where you have advisorship, right? You have advisors in place who have been there, who really can help you make better decisions. You have mentors and you have peers around you that will reinforce there is in fact a better way. So make sure you get a chance to check that out. And I really want you to put this into practice this week. Don't wait. Take a look at, what do you have on your calendar today? What do you have this week? And where is a place that you can lean into breaking this rule, or at least maybe bending it, and see if it gives you a little bit more freedom. That is all for today, my friends. Until next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.